So I'm joined right now by Gabor Lukacs. He is a passenger's right advocate. Sir, thanks for your time.
Good morning.
What's really going on here? What do you say with regards to what's going on here? A lot of upset people, they're waiting for hours after they get off their planes. What do you say?
You know, it's hard to know what exactly is going on. There are multiple reasons that I understand. One is airline staff shortage, other is CBSA and CATSA staff shortage, and also lack of planning and communication. There are questions that I don't have an answer to either, which is how come the airport wasn't telling the airlines, and how come CBSA and CATSA weren't telling the airlines what is their peak capacity, how many passengers they are able to handle. So this is on the one hand an issue of lack of communication, on the other hand it's an issue of lack of proper planning and proper staffing.
Now, we reported on this, we at CP24 reported on this happenings even last month. And in fact, the transport minister, the federal minister, came out and said that he believed that part of the delays were as a result of people not being used to traveling. He says, so they're fiddling around in their pockets to go through the checkpoints, and every 10, 20 seconds adds up, and this is why we're having these hours of delays. Do you agree with that, and what do you think of that statement?
That statement rings hollow, and it's an insult to passengers. It's really an attempt to blame passengers for what is the minister and his own government's failure to ensure that CATSA and CBSA are properly staffed. The fact that we would have this peak was known in advance. It was not a kind of surprise. It didn't come from nowhere. And they should have properly planned for it, and at least should have ensured that passengers and airlines know what are the capacities that are available at a given airport. I haven't seen any live website, for example, showing how long the lines are, how many passengers are going through at a given time. All the data could be very easily put on a website in real time. It would take very small cost. It would allow also airlines to better plan.
Well, and if there is staff shortages, as we're hearing throughout all the airports in the country, if nobody's being hired or nobody's going back to work, how is this problem going to get rectified in the near future?
Well, the problem is that nobody's getting hired. It's not. I didn't see people not wanting to work during the pandemic. On the contrary, airline employees were quite upset when they were laid off, and many of these people, I'm sure, would be happy to return to work. It's a question of why they're not being hired back, why they're not being trained, where the real bottleneck is, and partially it's an issue of attempt to cut corners. Airlines have not been staffing flights properly, and at the same time, or have not been staffing agents and gates and airports properly. I mean, for flights, you have to have a certain amount of pilots and so on. But it's ultimately a business decision. You shouldn't be selling so many seats that you're not able to handle those flights. So this is a question of the airline's reliability and responsibility, which the airline is responsible for selling too many tickets compared to their actual capacity, including backups needed due to the pandemic, but also a governmental CATSA CBSA liability in terms of their failure to properly staff their counters, their posts that are necessary for the flow of passengers.
Well, thank you for your time. There's a lot of great insight there. I appreciate your time.
Thank you very much for having me.